Hello and welcome to another Trash Talk Podcast. I'm your gentleman and I have Alex and Sergej. How y'all doing?
I'm good.
Doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing fine myself, and today we're once again answering very important questions. Possibly the most important one. Can art be judged objectively?
Pretty sure
maybe
we're
not
going
that.
to ask more questions than we will answer today, if we're going to be honest.
Likely, yes.
Then, okay. Today we're starting a conversation.
Yeah, that's right. We're
Yeah,
kicking off something.
that's better.
That's good. Let's go with that.
You just gotta frame it right, you know? Like, we're kickstarting the conversation. Yeah, so, can art be judged objectively? I guess is the sort of the starting question. And I'll probably lead us some places.
Yeah.
Which I guess the underlying question is, can art be objectively good or bad?
That's the question. So let's try to approach it via the case of an example. And just like complete prima facie, just see what seems plausible and what doesn't. So let's say I pose a statement like the Mona Lisa is objectively a good painting, or I pose a statement such as the Mona Lisa is objectively a better piece of art than like a banana taped to a wall. So what's the initial reaction?
I mean, I can see how...
Contradictory.
Contradictory? What does that mean?
Yes. So intuitively, I want to agree with you, but just thinking even a second, like that does not make sense to me.
Which part of it doesn't make sense to you? I guess
the
the
objectivity part.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I would probably be in that same camp, but then what makes immense sense to me, like, is the statement, okay, the Mona Lisa is a better piece of art than a banana taped to a wall.
That's what I was thinking, right? Like, I actually don't know if I agree with the first statement.
That makes more sense.
Like, I mean, the Mona Lisa, I guess, is, like, reasonably well executed, right? Like, it certainly has the likeness of a person, someone well represented. I personally don't get why it's seen as that important compared to a lot of other similarly qualitative portraits, at least in my opinion. Similarly qualitative, because obviously, is there an objective standard?
Pick your favorite one. What do you want, the Sistine Chapel?
I mean, it's certainly very extensive. The banana taped to a wall does seem like it's less good, there's less creative impulse behind it, I don't know. I mean, it's also not copyright infringement, it turns out, because taping a banana to a wall is not the same as taping a banana and an orange to a wall. So that's important to know.
Makes sense, yeah. That makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess let's walk through it the same way we would do for like when we introduce someone to moral realism, or whenever we try to figure out if a layman is has the concept of moral realism or not. We kind of go with this sort of approach. So we would ask, okay, we find it exceedingly plausible that like the Mona Lisa has a better piece of art than the banana taped to a wall. Okay, so is that the case because the majority of people in our country, in our society, think that it is?
It's an interesting question, because obviously much like I think our moral tendencies, a lot of our aesthetic tendencies would be derived from our cultural upbringing, right? So I don't think you can say, like, if it is a better piece of art, it is because people say it, like, people overwhelmingly agree this, because we have already established that's not a good way to determine objective facts, right? At the same time, though, we might think that it is better because, the dominant social group in our environment believes it is better, and therefore we grew up in an environment where we were led to believe that it is in fact better.
Okay, so let's envision like you get dropped in a society where it's just a brand new society, all new people, and you have the two pieces of art with you, and they look at them both, and they all, like, the majority of that population that you're now in the society that surrounds you, just prefers the banana. They say, okay, the banana is the better piece of art, over the Mona Lisa. So does that change the fact? Like, does that make it true that the banana is now a better piece of art?
I mean, I guess a society without any sort of prior influence of like understanding of art might in some ways be a better judge of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's objectively true, right? So that's...
Yeah, we're not saying objective. Like, does that? In fact, we are saying we are kind of trying to prove cultural relativism of art right now. So if we're saying yes, like the banana is now the objective lead, or is now the better piece of art. Sorry, then that would mean we think art is relative to cultural like desires.
I mean, you would think it has to be, right? Because we've seen different cultures produce different kinds of art, and some of that is practical, right? Like a culture that doesn't have like color pigments then would maybe not necessarily make paintings, right? Because you can't really do that without the pigments, and even just if they have fewer pigments, there's less they can do with it. So the fact that like some cultures tend to make statues, whereas others make paintings, like this sort of thing is maybe somewhat practically influenced, but you can see different styles in painting, for example, develop over time. I guess that's why, I mean, when I said art in the beginning, I didn't just mean paintings and whatnot, the classic arts. I also like any piece of media, for example, like music, right, movies we can also talk about, but I guess for like the historical perspective, painting is actually very useful because I look at cave paintings. Now, were those made for artistic reasons or were those made for practical reasons? It's hard to tell these days because we don't really have a good record from back then. But those certainly differ quite a lot from what we see later, right? And then you see, I think the Egyptians, for example, used to do a lot in profile, right? So you would always see figures from the side. I think you would still see both eyes though because they had like a weird thing where they weren't necessarily doing it realistically, so it's somewhat symbolic. And then you get into the European cultures, right, where you had sort of more just like showing the world as it is to some degree, although obviously they would do something like insert halos and stuff like that, so it's not entirely literal, but it is still like a more realistic art style. And then obviously afterwards you have movements that specifically distance themselves from it, right? After Impressionism comes Expressionism, right? And you get into like later on like the Dadaism and quite a lot of... I'm not an art expert, but that's like about as much as I can say about it. But you know, it's like taping a banana to a wall would definitely not have been considered art. I mean, besides the fact that it didn't have tape, I guess, but would not have been considered art in like medieval Europe. I'm fairly certain of that, based on just what I know about the art of the time. Right?
Yeah.
But it is considered art now. Now, some people would disagree, but it is still like artists and like art critics or whatever, like whoever like is closest to being an authority on the art does deem this to be some form of art. And so a lot of that would suggest that as culture changes, so does our art. And obviously I mentioned video games, movies, right? Those are all like newer mediums, although it is partially because obviously the technology didn't exist to make those before. So whether that is a cultural change about what we think of as art, or if that's just a technological change of what art we can make, I don't know.
So I can maybe kind of pitch in and say, yeah. So what you're begging a little bit is the question of like, what does art mean? Like, how do we define art? Like, taping a banana to a wall could have been art in medieval times, but it probably would have been considered so bad that no one would actually do it in practice. Like if you could consider it now, that's the same thing now. Like it can be art, it can just be really bad art, or it can be really good art. And it can be so bad that no one comes up with it, or it can be so like genius that no one has come up with it yet. What bothers me, or what my initial reaction to the leading question was, not the initial. The initial reaction was intuitively it seems to make sense that the Mona Lisa is a better piece of art than like a banana taped to a wall. What my secondary reaction is, and this is where I differ from you, Sergej, is it seems to me that this could almost be like an illicit statement, like better in what regard? So that when we say better, that's a judgmental term, and that implies normativity. So I would, in order to say anything, like to get further on this or start shaping my view, I would need to know what that implies on the normative scale, because better, like that implies normative terms. So what does that actually mean?
Yeah, I think when we call art good and bad, we're not necessarily talking like morally good and bad. I think that's fairly obvious. I think
Sure.
it's a qualitative question, right? Like, is it better
But still,
as a
what is
piece of
it?
art?
What
Is it
what
more
is this?
effective at being a piece of art? I guess, right? Like, is it more
Yeah, but
artistic?
okay, yeah. But what is like when we're using these terms better, better, good, bad, better, worse, that is inherently tied to like a commandment of like human thought or action, right? And we're saying like a moral action is better than another. That means that we ought to do this one action over the other. It infers like a prescriptive term. So what is it here? Does normativity exist in this realm? And if so, what would it be? I would like some like statements that describe it that I could derive from it. When I say, okay, the Mona Lisa is a better piece of art.
Similar to moral stuff, right? You ought to do better art than bad ones.
We ought what? Sorry?
We ought to do better art than bad one.
Yeah, so if it tells you what you ought to do, then it is just a moral question. And
yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't.
Morality tells you how you ought to act. So when you say you
ought value. You ought value.
You ought value.
Yeah.
That seems like okay. That's an epistemic terminology. I guess that's sort of the realm it would fall into.
I guess
like you ought value one or the other, or you ought believe that the Mona Lisa is a better piece of art. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I guess I would be like besides the fact that obviously the prescriptive aspects of normativity, we talked about that before. How I feel about that, but the fact of the matter is, I don't think a sort of prescription to make better art is something that makes sense, because if, as I said before, that art doesn't really have a moral value in that sense, I think there is a question of like who would be harmed, right, by like making bad art, right? Like, is there like there's that aspect where it seems weird to me and unintuitive to say that you shouldn't make bad art. As a matter of fact, one of the best ways of making good art is to make bad art, right? You learn from your mistakes, in essence. The only way to get better is by doing it, and the only way to start is by being bad, basically, because basically no one is good from the get-go. Even most people that are described as prodigies usually had a lot of training.
But what is that? How does that develop when there is no good and bad? Like, isn't the very first drawing you make at 3 years old? By what standard do you measure your progress in art? And what entitles you to call it better in the future?
I mean, artists don't seem to struggle with that idea, right? Like, they generally do.
Yeah, most people don't seem to struggle with that idea about morality either, and they recognize moral progress. Or we're saying, okay, like we don't. It's not obvious to us like where the normativity comes in the artistic side of things. Then, yeah, how do we go with that? Like one of the biggest practical issues against the moral relativism in morality is this idea like, okay, but you can't measure it. You have no explanation for the moral progress we're observing. You just can't explain it in a proper way. So when we look at this in the art sense, like I doodle something at 3 years old, and then, or maybe Michelangelo doodled something at 3 years old, and then he grew up and painted the most beautiful things of all time. But is like, as a philosopher going to come by and tell him, you know what, this is actually not better or anything? Like, this is you're like making a category error when you say you have gotten better. Like, the best you can do is say, I'm doing it differently now. Maybe I'm taking longer. I don't know. It feels like a tough field to make progress on.
I mean, I guess you could argue that if you develop your skills so that you can make quote-unquote better art, you are still capable of making the quote-unquote worse art you made before. So at the very least, we can say you've gained more ability, right? And not just...
You've expanded your repertoire.
Yeah, so at the very least, I think that is something we could say. So even if we disagree that the new art you're making is better, you still are capable of making more different kinds of art, which would then still be an expansion of skill in some sense, right? I've seen some early Picasso portraits, which I thought were pretty good, actually, and then, he made a lot of abstract stuff later, which most people seem to like better, but I do think, just from looking at it, looks less like it requires skill. Like, it looks less technically complex. Now, not a painter, again, so I don't know if that is actually true, but just from looking at it, right? It's that thing where oftentimes with abstract art you get into a thing where it's like any 5-year-old couldn't make this. And And maybe they can, but maybe they wouldn't come up with it, for example, right? So maybe the skill there is less in like putting it on paper and more, or whatever they use back then, canvas, I guess. Or the skill is less in putting it on paper and more of coming up with it in the first place, right? Building the composition rather than actually like painting it. I don't know. So, but just the actual like painting part seems less skilled to me. But then again, maybe there are subtle things that I can't see. And so there's that element as well where we might disagree on what is better or what requires more skill. And then I guess it's also the question, right? If something requires more skill, is it inherently better? The answer surely must be no.
Yeah, I would say no. That seems
maybe. Yeah, no, probably not. Is it always better if it requires more skill? No, of course not. Like being the dictator of Germany requires more skill than delivering pizzas. But of course, I would rather anyone deliver pizzas than become Hitler.
Yes, although that's not the question, right? I mean, that is like delivering pizzas is a moral good, whereas obviously being a dictator is a moral bad. Again, I don't believe in objective morality, but I would think it is.
Wait, what's your question then? Maybe I misunderstood.
Well, we're talking about art, right? Now,
yeah.
Hitler was also an artist, but again, that's not really the relevant part here.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah.
Like, is something better art just because it requires more skill? I'm not saying, like, universally in every aspect is something better because it requires more skill, but specifically in art, right? Is something more artful or better art if it requires more skill to produce? Because
then I'm not so sure if I would immediately jump on saying no.
Because you said, obviously, the duels of a 3-year-old are generally seen as less good art, right? Because anyone can really make those. That's probably at least part of why they're seen that way. But at the same time, I'm sure you could basically make the same painting, but use more complex techniques to create, in effect, the same end result. So, I guess if it's the same end result, it wouldn't require more skill to make it. You're just using more skill to make it. That's maybe not the same thing as I was asking. But it's a thing where, in theory, you could add something to a painting, for example, that makes it worse, but the thing you added requires a lot of skill to do so, I guess. Like, that at least seems conceivable to me. That you could make something worse with more skill. Or even require more skill.
Let's try to find an example. I want to try to find an example of something that, like, of two things, one of which takes more skill than the other, and we would say that the former is worse. So, and in the artistic sense. So let's say, like, there's plenty of people who can, like, draw a relatively reasonably good or realistic looking, like, human face, right? And people are like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, if you've ever been to, like, a public school, like 30% of kids somehow be able to do that. I don't know how, but in contrast, you could say, okay, like, it's probably harder or requires more skill to, like, stack 3 hot dogs vertically on top of each other on, like, a tabletop, right? Like, that's really tough to do. So when you look at either one, so, like, okay, this guy stacked hot dogs, okay, but, like, this other one seems like better art. Or is the stacking hot dogs better art just because it was so much harder to do? Maybe there's something inherent to, like, how hard it was to produce that makes art good.
That actually brings up another point.
And this is a tough question.
Because there are probably things that are a lot harder to produce that we don't even consider art, right? Like, just in a practical sense, right? Like, producing a computer chip is certainly a lot more difficult than painting a painting, right?
Yeah.
Is it nowadays? It's all, like, machine done?
I guess technically, like, pressing the button on the machine isn't more complex, but I guess, like, building the machinery in the first place, right? Like, designing the architecture, right? I mean, I guess we could say, like, designing the architecture of a chip that's the one where you probably have the most clear, like, human input, although there's probably some automation there as well. Certainly a lot more difficult than, like, painting the Mona Lisa or whatever. I mean, there are people that can, like, actually... That's another thing, right? There are people that can convincingly replicate art. We consider those forgeries, and we consider those inferior, even if they are superficially identical. that's maybe another,
because there's no originality to it, right? If you're working off of the first piece, it's easier to copy, but working like inventing it and making it from scratch originally is harder to do.
I mean, it's literally a portrait of presumably a real woman. Although I think there was a theory that it might be a man that sat in as a model, and they just kind of like painted it to be more womanly because it would have just been like another art student in the building, maybe. But anyways, the point is, right? A lot of paintings are literally just capturing real scenes. So then the question is, right, does it require more skill to imitate a real scene or to imitate a painting? I would argue it takes more skill to imitate the painting because for the real scene, you don't expect it to be photorealistic when the painting is made, right? You require a certain, what was the word I'm looking for? A certain level of realism, but it's not necessarily photorealistic that you expect. And when copying a painting, you would expect it to be identical. Like to the point where most people looking at it, or actually like everyone just looking at it from like, I don't know, like a meter's distance, could not tell the difference. You know, it's usually once they start bringing out like freaking magnifying glasses and that sort of stuff that you actually
look
like
at every brush stroke. Yeah.
Where you actually can tell the difference.
When you're capturing the original, like you're painting a scene, but you're dealing with a dynamic environment. You're looking at a 3D thing and you're putting it on a 2D canvas. You're looking at objects that are moving, that are like dynamic. And maybe that's harder because like when you have the painting on your left, you can say, okay, I can check like with my brush, okay, this is the same color, like right next to each other, that's the same color, I'll do it. When you're looking at something in front of you, like find the right color that will look like the right color on the 2D painting. I'm not sure. I feel like intuitively it seems making the original is more difficult.
I mean, not really the point,
so
but you can't match the color on the brush to the painting because it might change shade a little bit when it dries. But,
yeah, whatever techniques they use, right?
Yeah,
but they have like the completely still thing right here, and I can figure it out.
I mean, I guess it would be. I'm just trying to find a distinction. It would be easier to imitate someone's style, maybe, than it would be to imitate a specific painting. I don't know. Is that true? Is that not true? Because if you're I guess then you run into the same thing as with an original again, right? Where like you have to like actually like find the right scene and represent it accurately. But right, because it surely is easier to paint them as kind of like the Mona Lisa than to literally repaint the Mona Lisa. But at the same time, there's more creativity involved in one, and there's more skill maybe involved in the other. And is creativity a skill?
Yeah. So I have maybe another angle we can attack it, and one that like maybe to me is the most plausible way we would ever get to like a form of realism. If we look at maybe underlying structures such as the golden ratio, like values that are measured everywhere, like in art and architecture, across all cultures, and are basically considered like universal, or like ideas like harmony or something, proportion. Oh yeah, the golden ratio, right? Like there we're already much closer to having something that we can consider an objective standard in the creation of art.
I mean, it's worth noting that the universal presence of the golden ratio is greatly exaggerated, but just as a general matter, like some of the things where they're like, oh, this is the golden ratio, it's like, well, it's close, but also no one probably thought of it when they made it. And so I'm not saying that you're inherently wrong, that there might be like underlying things that you could look at. I'm just saying that this particular example
just because no one thought of it specifically when they created it doesn't mean that.
Yeah. It's just a thing, you know, people will take like the spiral that has like the growth rate of phi or whatever, and like they'll put it over everything, and they'll be like, see, it's a golden ratio. It's like, that spiral doesn't even line up with anything. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to build this like bridge here, right? So like if we have this concept or this structure that is real, that is in the real, that exists in the real world, that consistently in art leads to like good results, is consistently perceived as ethically pleasing across cultures, across times. That seems to make at least the case that like that underlying principle has something to do with that, and that would then be, you know, that could be like a standard we could we could try to work off.
Yeah, no, that. I mean, you are basically saying, right? Like, let's strip away all of the cultural elements and like of like how we, not of the art itself, but of how we perceive the art, I guess. And whatever is left across cultures and time then has to be either the objective center or the realist as close to an objective center as we can get. I do think that's, again, with the caveat of like as close as we can get, I think that is probably correct. It's one of those where, again, right, I'm very hesitant to agree that something is objective, just as a general matter.
So we would ask a question like, okay, let's say let's stick with the golden ratio, I guess. So we have this thing, we observe it. It's constantly like across cultures throughout times. Artworks that contain it are perceived as as aesthetically pleasing. We would say then, okay, wait, what was the point I was going to make? Okay, I forgot my point halfway through.
No.
Yeah. So we wouldn't see like every like criteria of a certain art piece as the one that distinguishes it, like objectively, but there might be like underlying parts. All right. So we have this thing. What is like? We could formulate a statement or proposition like including the golden ratio is beneficial for making good art, for example, and that statement would plausibly be true.
I think when you do that, we might run into the problem where what was it? Any metric is useless when it becomes a goal. Where like once those metrics are known, but if we come up with objective metrics for what makes good art, and those metrics then therefore become known, then someone could intentionally try to incorporate as many of those metrics into their art as possible. And we probably would, at least objectively, not judge it to be quite as good, because they're just like shoving criteria in there rather than like them naturally developing out of the art, I suppose. You could literally write a computer algorithm that, I mean, we have AI art now. Art, some people wouldn't consider it such, but you could then program it to follow certain rules.
Yeah.
And so then the question is, right, like, would that then be more artful than anything a human has produced, which doesn't quite as precisely follow the rules? So it seems hard to have objective criteria, at the very least, as the only thing we judge it on. Like, it could maybe be a part of it, but it probably can never be the whole thing. There are some people that are arguing, for example, that, again, AI art is the question, right? Is it even art? Right? Some people say that if it wasn't created by, like, a human, it isn't art. Now, obviously, we could talk about, like, if there were, like, sapient alien species, then they could probably make art and blah, blah, blah. So, like, there are a lot of hypotheticals here. But AI is not intelligent or sapient in the way that we would understand those terms to be applied. Therefore, can it even make art, right? Like, AI isn't creative as we think of creativity. So can it make art? And that's, I guess, the other thing, right? Where
that opens a whole other thing as well. Like, can it make art? Will it ever be able to make art? Will it ever be able to be creative? And I guess that's going into a little bit of a different field with like artificial consciousness and so forth.
Yeah, and also, is it art and is it good art? Is not maybe exactly the same question, but
yeah. But what I'm saying is, we could maybe we have sort of a middle ground view where we say like these cultural factors are more the result of like the piece of art that the impressions that it has, rather than the truth-making factor itself of whether a piece of art is good. So, like, the reason that, like, let's say everyone, like, we might observe that, okay, like, all these cultures seem to, like this, tend towards liking the same types of art. And that's the result. That's what we observe. And then we could try to look for standards that underlie that, such as, okay, it seems to be, golden ratio seems to be good. If, like, some sort of proportion levels seem to work, and those standards then would have a like some sort of truth value because it consistently generates the correct response.
Yeah, I mean, the response that art creates is another thing, right? Like, some people say that art's supposed to evoke emotions, for example, and that is actually like what it means to be good art, right? Like if it evokes emotions, it doesn't even necessarily matter which ones. It just has to get a reaction, right? That's sort of the idea of art. Others would say it's how well executed it is. Others would maybe say how much skill it takes to execute it in the first place. Right? So there are different criteria we can look at, and none of those are necessarily 100% objective either. So that's also where it gets complicated. I think AI art is maybe an interesting wrinkle in this that I had just thought of when I said it the first time. But if you have AI generate an image, and you have a human like make an image, I guess for argument's sake, let's say like Photoshop or whatever, like they're making it digitally so that they're the most comparable, and you ask someone like which one is better, and the AI one ends up winning, which is certainly possible. Then the question then becomes, right, like if we say that AI cannot make art because it isn't creative, isn't conscious, right, but at the same time, its art is shown to have more artistic merit according to people. Like, what does that tell us?
Yeah, so it's a long.
Also, I mean, it
definition game
did
we're
happen
playing, right?
already. Like AI art won at an art contest.
I mean, the headline that I saw was of an AI image that was like very heavily modified afterwards. So, is it then still AI art, or is it just AI as inspiration for art? Right? There comes a level where, like, it basically, when you look at the original generated image versus the image that was actually handed in, the AI seems to have primarily done the composition, and the artist basically like redrew most of the elements. The reason why it was end up being disqualified is because he didn't want to disclose what exactly was AI and what wasn't, which then made it against the rules for like AI contributions. But again, that's just the one that I saw. It's very possible that unmodified AI images have one somewhere. I mean, the trick with AI imagery for the most part is just to like filter until you find something good, because a lot of them tend to have problems. Although that is also getting better. Like AI is getting better at like replicating things. No, replication is not the only useful thing. But
with the questions we're getting into, we have to go off of a working definition of the word art, and almost every one we can pick would probably very trivially give us an answer to these questions. So I just typed it in, and so for example, like the first definition that's given for art is the conscious use of the imagination in the production of objects intended to be contemplated or appreciated as beautiful in the arrangement of forms, sounds, or words.
Yeah, I guess.
So, conscious use of the imagination.
Yeah, so AI art is not art
don't
because it's not using conscious use of imagination. I guess someone would argue that writing the prompt is a conscious use of imagination, but the general answer to that is that it takes a lot less creativity to write a good prompt than it does to actually make a good piece of art. I guess that kind of hits at the point, though, right? Like, I guess beauty, right, was what you mentioned there as one of the things that it is like trying to be aesthetically pleasing,
intended to be appreciated as beautiful.
Yeah. So, like, I guess that's the question, right? Is there an objective beauty standard? Normally, when we ask that question, we talk about humans specifically, but I think in general, right? Like, is there an objective standard?
That's just the same question, right?
For what is beautiful. I mean, it basically is. It just takes the question of what is art out of it, right? It's something like the AI art can be beautiful, even if it isn't art because it's not creative.
Yeah, like AI can make beautiful things.
I mean, nature clearly can make beautiful things, right? And we don't. Most people would not ascribe consciousness to that. Religion makes it a bit more complicated, but most people don't anthropomorphize nature outside of a rhetorical context. Some would say there is a creator that sort of created those things, although even those you would usually agree there are some sort of natural processes. The point is...
That would be a very good analogy to the AI art, by the way. Like, if God works through natural ways, he wrote the prompt. And then he wrote the prompt for nature, and then nature made beautiful things.
That's a tag like God is an AI artist. I think that's going to make everyone mad.
Maybe.
What was like right? Right. So nature can be beautiful, right? And we wouldn't necessarily say that nature is art necessarily. So it's not exactly the same question, but it's a very simple question.
Yeah, but it's also a completely different question. So, like, we're away from the book. Can AI make art? Because by this definition, we have to say no. AI does not make art. It's anything AI makes is not art. And
so
that's as far as it goes.
I guess the question of is there objective beauty and can art be objectively good is not the same question.
Definitely not.
Unless we say that beauty is the only thing that art is to be judged by, because then if art is objectively good, it's also objectively beautiful, and then we have an objective beauty standard.
But surely that's also not the case, because there's plenty of pieces of very good art that are actually unpleasant, that are designed to be unpleasant, that are about the message, right? Like plenty of like the best books in the world are not fun to read.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think literature is actually a great example for that in particular, right? Because you do have like unpleasant paintings as well sometimes that try to evoke a different reaction, but I think literature is probably one of the places where that happens the most, where you have like uncomfortable reads, right, that are like very important though. I guess the same thing can happen for like television as well, but
like beauty and goodness are definitely not the same thing when it comes to art. I think we can probably set that in stone.
And I guess if art is trying to convince a message, right, then the question, we could also judge it by the moral quality of that message again, right? So we could actually bring it back to morals, right? Not every piece of art is trying to convey a moral message, so that surely can't be the only standard. Although I guess something can be neutral.
But the question is like, is it actually the piece itself is better, or is the message that it conveys?
And so if art says Nazis are bad, then maybe we can agree that is a good thing to say. And by art I mean Art Spiegelman, a better piece of art, the author of Maus.
Piece that says Nazis are
But
maybe
right, like that. So I guess so. I guess art can have a moral dimension, right? Where like
when we talk about the message it delivers,
yeah. And then I guess
I think no, go ahead.
I guess there's a question as well. It's like, what even is the message of art? Is it the message we as a viewer take away from it, or is it the message that the artist intended? Because that can sometimes also be different, right? I mean, I guess that is the question: the death of the author versus authorial intent, right? But that is also a question we then have to ask, because sometimes the author did not intend a reading that is actually very common, for example, right? Supposedly Kill the Moon was not, in fact, about abortion, but it very much feels like it's about abortion. That's the one where the moon is an egg, Sergej. It's a Doctor Who episode, I should mention.
I guess you can have that in other domains as well, though, in art particularly, because the message is like, the point of art is to have the message be encrypted, or maybe even to have the message be in the eye of the beholder. Maybe the intention of the artist is to have the message be in the eye of the beholder. So you can't really say, but the same thing can happen in just plain speech. It's called a misunderstanding. I can say something. There's a great example that I heard in a debate with Lance Bush and Joe Schmidt. They were talking about metaethics, and they were talking about like, is the average, the layman, a realist about morality? And they would go ahead and they would ask him a question like, okay, John says, murder is always bad, and Patrick says, okay, murder is not always bad. And you would ask the participant, can they both be right? And you'd have like a huge mix of answers. But here's the thing. You'd ask them something like this, and you go into the epistemics, you ask them, hey, John says Caesar drank wine on his 21st birthday, and Patrick says Caesar did not drink wine on his 21st birthday. And you ask them, can they both be right?
Definitely.
Because of how you interpret the question, right?
I mean,
so like 50% of people say yes. No, Julius Caesar, the Caesar. That's the question.
Okay.
The guy, or whoever, like Alexander the Great, a specific person. He drank wine on his birthday, he did not drink wine on his birthday.
I mean, I guess only one of those
can they both be right? But like you have like 50% of people saying yes, because they misunderstand the question. All right, is it an inclusive or not? Like, yeah, either of them can be right, so they both can be right? Can both teams win the Super Bowl? Yeah, both teams could possibly win the Super Bowl,
but both as in either. Okay.
But both, exactly, both as in either, or both as in both at the same time, right? And that's a very, very common thing you get. And that's why it's so hard to do layman metaethics, because if you ask them, hey, this guy says this about ethics, and this guy says this, can they both be right? We don't even know if they understand the question right. And it gets so much more difficult. So that happens in speech, it happens in every domain, and of course in art even more so because we're not even using language.
I mean, the fact that we're not using language actually can sometimes, I mean, not in the case of art, of course, but in other cases can actually help. Because, as you said, language does create some of those problems, and we have things that are much less ambiguous than language. I mean, it's part of why math is so big into like those like really convoluted notations for their proofs, right? You could write a lot of those out in words and have them be much more understandable, at least to the layman, but at the same time, because language is imprecise, you might end up like getting the wrong impression across, and so having notation that like very clearly means one thing is very helpful for that. I mean, it's just an example. So
in this particular case, of metaethics is very, very difficult, and because you're trying to like gauge the metaethics of the layman, but it might turn out that metaethics is a field that like by the time you understand enough about it to give a qualified judgment, you could not be considered a layman anymore because it's too complex of a topic, right? The same thing is probably true with your quantum physics stuff, right? Lance Bush gives this example as well. Like, okay, we can ask people, do you endorse the Copenhagen interpretation or many worlds interpretation? And like by the time that someone understands properly what those mean, they are by no means a layman on quantum physics anymore. And so how do you get like, so it's a real process to design even a survey to approach these sorts of topics.
And the worst part is I don't even know which side I lean on. Like
the thing is, me either, because like I'm suspending judgment. Like I have an intuition, but I also have zero knowledge about, or close to zero knowledge about it.
Many worlds seems weird in some ways, but it kind of solves the problem, right, with the Copenhagen information. Like, I don't really believe in luck, chance, probability, whatever you want to call it, right? So, like, quantum physics might be the only case where that might actually exist, because, right, the concept isn't random. It's just complex enough that it's impossible for the human brain to, at the time of the flip, predict the outcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or to flip it in such a way that it creates a certain outcome, at least if you flip it well. Again, there's a certain judgment there, because you could obviously just chuck the coin on the ground and say that's the result, right? If you think of like a football coin toss, where they usually throw it in the field. So if it doesn't flip in the air, then who's to say if it was actually then it doesn't look very random. But a coin flip literally is not random, right? A dice roll is not random. Like, at the time it leaves your hand, a physicist could, with precise enough information,
with sufficient information,
calculate the exact outcome. And so
exactly,
it's not random. It just seems random. And so I think all randomness, at least above the quantum level, is like that.
Non-quantum.
On the quantum level, I don't know, but it seems weird that it would. But I guess that's the thing that I always said with quantum physics, where like it seems weird that this thing would suddenly exist that doesn't exist in any other context.
Yeah, so the thing is, like, if you ask me this question that Sergej has with these two interpretations, like, I have absolutely no idea, because it seems to me that in practice it makes no difference there's absolutely no way in which it makes a difference. Only that many worlds seems a parsimonious nightmare to me, like when I'm supposed to like justify the metaphysical baggage that comes with it. But I don't know, man. Is it a question we will ever be able to know?
I mean,
like, is it a question that's feasible we can answer?
I don't know. Possibly.
I guess
possibly not.
One of the problems that I have with many worlds is we talked about like where does the universe come from, right? Like matter doesn't just spring into existence out of nowhere, right? We kind of like in the Zero God episode, we kind of talked about that a little bit. And like now there's just universes popping into existence left, right, and center, right? Like, I mean, yes, it's the universe splitting, but both universes would have the same amount of matter as the preceding one. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
So we're losing matter in our universe?
Well, clearly not. That we would have been able to measure, certainly. Right? Because we also have an Earth and every single human in the new split universe. And so every time there's a quantum event, the matter would halve, right? We would pretty quickly notice that. So that's very clearly not what's happening.
I think we wouldn't notice that. It would happen too quickly.
Yeah, I mean, there would basically not be a universe that's recognizable past by the end. But so, therefore, matter effectively duplicates whenever a quantum event happens. Which doesn't sound like the way that we understand physics to work. But then, again, probability isn't the way I understand physics to work, at least in general. So quantum physics is just weird in general.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Seems like it.
Quantum physics is not
I have a
aesthetically
question No, definitely not. I have a question from ignorance about regular physics. So, with the Schrodinger's cat example and like radioactive decay and whatnot, right?
That's not regular physics.
That's literally quantum
That's not regular physics? Oh, that's already quantum physics? Okay,
That's
so
Schrodinger's cat is literally like one of the foundational ideas of quantum physics, I think, right? But like one of those
okay, so like I was asking, like at the point like like the element decays or whatever, is that point when it happens random, or is that also something where with like sufficient previous information we could predict it?
The decay is a quantum event. It happens because of quantum stuff.
Whether it's random or our world splits in twain whenever it happens, depends on your interpretation of quantum physics.
But then, is it random which of the worlds we stay in?
We stay in both.
If.
Why is it then? Okay, is it random which continued stream of consciousness I keep, like the observer keeps in that world?
Yeah, okay, that is the part that took me a while to wrap my head around, but from the past point of view, you go into both. From the present point of view, you are sort of randomly in one, but you in the other timeline is just as randomly in that one, right? So it's not really random. It's just that every single version of you basically has the thought, well, I mean, if brains are quantum, then maybe not literally every single one. But the point is, right, every single version of you could ask that same question, like, why am I in this reality? And so, it's not
think of
that
it as
your brain,
in a different example.
It's not that your brain randomly ended up in one of the timelines, it ended up in all of them.
Yeah. If you make a perfect clone of you, like brain, body, everything included, memories, experience, whatever, then in which clone do you end up in? You'd say both, right? Since they both
I don't know. I would suspend judgment. I can't answer that because I'm not convinced in the dualism physicalism debate.
Oh yeah, right.
I don't know that.
No, but the idea is basically it splits, and both keep existing separate. But if they look back, they could both be like, "Hey, why am I the one who ended up in this reality?" It's like, no, like you didn't really end up in one version. You end up in all of them. It's just that your consciousness that's thinking about it is in one specific one, but it's not really chance.
Like, okay, but on the physicalist idea, like consciousness is purely physical. So if it's the same consciousness that just splits in both, how come? This is what humor always says. Like, okay, with this like in infinite universe or whatever he talks about, like surely there's like somewhere out there there's a being that is sufficiently close to me to just be me, like where every atom and everything is the same. Or with this like time split, I guess it works the same way. So how come I don't experience any of these other timelines ever at the same time? If it should be the same consciousness, right?
Why would you?
Oh, because it's there, it exists, right?
I think that's a question I asked before.
Separate from you.
Yeah, it's the same consciousness.
What do you mean by the same?
Yeah, well, it's the same consciousness, right? Everything's the same.
It's not the same.
If I have
it's just identical
piece of paper and I print a copy of it and tear the original apart, why doesn't the copy rip apart? Why does a copy
I'm not saying if a quantum event happens to me, like let's say something completely different.
It's a physically different thing in a different location.
If like well, how is it a physical location? Like I thought, like with quantum. Okay, whatever. Let's say like a quantum event happens like over there, okay, and so timeline splits. Yeah. But I'm unaffected by the quantum event. It's not happening to me. I'm just there. So like my consciousness in both timelines should be the same thing. I'm the same person down to the atom.
They're identical, but they're not the same.
So you gotta riddle me that.
Yeah, I don't know if the English language actually has a good distinction between those, but they're not literally the same, but they are identical. Now, I did ask the question, I believe, in the last time we did a podcast together, where I was like, if a quantum event happens this way and the next one happens that way, like, do the universes merge again? And the answers we don't know. But because then they would literally be identical, and then, I mean, I guess the other question is, like, are all the quantum universes, like, physically a thing that exists physically separate, or are they kind of just sort of... it gets complicated. But yeah, no, the idea is that you're
Yeah.
not literally the same. I mean, it's the same with the clone, right? That Sergej was asking, right? Like if you made an identical clone of you with the same consciousness and everything, then with identical consciousness, I should say, then just because something happens to one of the clones doesn't necessarily mean it also happens to the other, because they're just two separate entities at that point.
Yeah, not necessarily some happens to the other, but do they experience the same subjective reality? They have the or whatever identical consciousness. They experience an identical reality.
Yes, they experience a reality that seems identical to them, because the quantum event that we talked about is far away, that it doesn't directly affect your experience of reality, but you're still in a different reality, even if it experientially is the same to you.
Yeah, so that's like sort of where I have to kind of, I don't know, I need to get more understanding of what that actually means.
I mean,
because that seems like we're just like talking about things that are so vague and like out there that I don't know how to parse it into like any sort of system. But
yeah,
to get back to the question, like I don't know if it's the same if it's the same or not, because I'm on the fence on the physicalism thing. I just don't know enough about it yet, so I can't answer it.
Yeah,
but
we're also like pretty far from the actual topic, anyways.
Yeah. I would be with you, JJ, on like on Copenhagen Many Worlds. I think just for parsimony reasons, if you put a gun to my head, I would go Copenhagen and then proclaim my complete ignorance about the topic anyway. But also I would wonder if we can ever figure it out, and what like practical implications of it are.
Yeah, I mean the problem is that one of the things that the Many Worlds interpretation says is that there's no way to send anything between those two worlds, including information. So it's impossible to know whether they are both. Oh god, there's something I don't know that's okay. No, it's okay.
Yes, you can send exactly one bit of information to a different world. That's it, not more.
Would that be sufficient to experimentally prove that it exists?
Not really, no.
Okay.
Can it be disproven?
Hmm?
Can it be disproven? Can we disprove one of the two?
Not as of now.
Which also makes it scientifically irrelevant.
Is it metaphysically possible to disprove one of the two?
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, you're asking two people that are not quantum physicists that have, like, frankly not even that deep of understanding to answer, like, questions that probably the people in the field couldn't even answer.
Because if the answer to that is no, maybe we should study something different.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point, right? Like, distinguishing between those two isn't worthwhile if you can't prove one over the other or disprove one over the other. So
like, can we even have evidence in favor of one or the other? Not even proofs. Like even in this whole atheism debate, we can at least have evidence going either way and weigh them. But in this case, is there anything?
I
mean, I guess
only the way, like, what you're willing to accept more.
Sorry, can you
what you're more comfortable with. It's really only what you're more comfortable with accepting, which of the premises.
But I mean, that's not evidence.
There's no real distinction.
Yeah, I guess
so. Like that doesn't carry any
that's
truth,
why they're interpretations. That's why they're interpretations, and not the theory itself.
Yeah, I guess if as we develop our models, there might come a point where one fits better with a model than the other, where there is maybe a possible distinction, but there's currently no way to distinguish them, which I guess, yeah, as I said, right, it's not really a scientific theory or a scientific hypothesis or whatever, it's really just more of like a frame of interpretation. Which is weird, it happens sometimes in physics. You sometimes have concepts of physics that just aren't real, but that are like useful for thinking about it, which is kind of
for entertainment purposes only, pretty much.
I mean, virtual particles, right?
Not really for entertainment, for thinking of it.
Yeah.
Or like graphs. If you present some data, the graph isn't the data. It just lets you think about it in a more structured way.
Yeah. Illustrates it.
Yeah, illustrates it. That's what these interpretations are for.
I
don't know how to get. Yeah. Let's talk about that in the future again, though. Like this whole stuff is mildly interesting.
Alex, what's your
All
fact of the
right.
week?
All right, boys. My fact of the week. Okay, I might give a dialogue. I might give like a 10-minute monologue here. Okay, so this is big. Okay, so I think I figured something out. I will say this. This is I think it's a fact of the week. I would call it like justified belief of the week. It's not a certainty of the week because there is still so much like common disagreement and false understandings about this. But I spent quite a good amount of time digging into this, and I have enough reason to present this as a fact. So this is a big historical misconception, one of the biggest ones, and it seems to me that it is one that is just universal. Like it doesn't matter where you're from, how old you are, you have learned this historical thing wrong. And I will ask you the question first, and then we'll sort of get into it. Why are Native Americans called Indians?
Oh, yeah, because Christopher Columbus thought he was going to India, so I called them Indians. That is the generally accepted reality.
Sergej, you learned that too? Did you learn that in Russia? Did you learn it in Germany?
I don't remember. It's been a long time ago.
Every
Probably in
single
Germany.
person I've
Based on his
asked.
age when he came over, probably in Germany, but
Yeah.
Any person I've asked from no matter where, like in the goddamn galaxy or what age, has the same idea, same explanation, and schools teach it, right? And like the internet thinks it, ChatGPT thinks it. Okay, Brave Search Summary AI gets it right, but ChatGPT gets this wrong, at least partially wrong. So first of all, there's a couple of things to unpack. The first one is what is definitively true. We know for a fact is that he did not think he was in India. Christopher Columbus thought he was in a group of landmasses or islands called the Indies, which is in the like sort of Pacific Ocean, outside of the like Asian, I guess, area, maybe Pacific Indian Ocean or something like that.
yeah.
As a matter of fact, back then in the 15th century, India was commonly referred to as Hindustan, so people wouldn't even call the country India necessarily. And as for the etymology of the word, in a letter from his first voyage to the Spanish king and also his logbooks, so Columbus didn't call the people, the king did not call those people Indians. What he did call them was when he sort of interacted with them, he called them like divine people or divinely blessed or God's people. Or in Spanish, because Columbus didn't speak English, he called them Los Gentes Indios, a people in God. And from this Indios, we started getting the Spanish term for what became Indios, which then meant Indians in English. And so that's the origin of the word. And it is potentially, I feel like the most mistaught and most commonly held, like very well-known historical belief that is probably just false. And I think there's multiple reasons for why it's still perpetuated that way. And I wouldn't be surprised if in 100 years people still all believe this probably wrong thing. There's different reasons for it. But when I dug into this, it was like a massive rabbit hole, and I found that extremely interesting.
I mean, it's one of those where it's just like a convenient simple explanation versus the much more complex real one that tends to often have the simple explanations take over. It's the thing, right? I was taught the different zones of the tongue that experience different tastes in school, which is also total bunk science. I was taught in biology class, like that different parts of the tongue have like taste different things. Like, that's just not true. Like
that's true. I don't know why.
Like, but it is also still commonly taught, or at least was like 10 years ago now. But
yeah.
But I feel like even that is like more well known now that's kind of nonsense.
Yeah, that is definitely becoming
this
more
Columbus thing that I haven't heard. I have not seen anyone to this. And then when I figured this out, I saw a George Carlin skit on YouTube where he just casually gives that information as part of a joke. And it turns out somehow he knew that.
So that would have been a while ago as well. Right?
Yeah. So it's been out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with misinformation, right? It tends to spread very effectively, often more effective than regular information. And again, in this case, it's just like a fun anecdote, right? Like, oh yeah, he thought he was going to
It
India,
seems
and
so
then
plausible, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds
He
right,
did.
and it's very simple. And then, like, your
Yeah.
explanation, like, you have to go into, I mean, okay, the difference between Indies and India is not even that relevant in this case, but like, the whole, like, oh yeah, you have to, like, translate it into Spanish, and then you have to translate it back into English. And it's like that's much more convoluted, which people tend to have an easier time accepting simple explanations.
Yeah, he intended to go to India. That's
Yes.
maybe also where it comes from. He in fact intended to go to India. Then he comes back and he's called the people the Indios, and people just feel like they put two and two together, right?
Yeah.
But that's and also I think there's probably like a modern day like sociopolitical like deal behind it as well, because we really need to like make people believe that Indians is a slur and Native Americans isn't. When, like as Carlin said in the sketch, probably the opposite is the case. Those people, first of all, are not native there because everyone is like native from some random valley in South Africa.
Yeah, but they were there before the settlers.
Yeah. But like, in the truest sense of native, and then also like we steal their land and we put them in some reservations, and then as a reward we name them after ourselves, right? So,
after some Italian guy who's never been, I think, something Amerigo. I believe he was the second guy to draw a map that had America on it or something, and then they named it after him.
But we named them after the country we found. So that also is definitely part of it. But the etymology is crazy cool. And by the way, if you look this up online, you will find like a legit 50-50 split. You will find like debunkings of the same idea. People are like, oh yeah, people say it's because he called them like something in Spanish, and that's false. He's still, this is like I don't know, man. It's super not well known, and that therefore it is one of my favorite facts ever.
I will say calling them Indians is just impractical, right? Like, if nothing else, is impractical because Indians are people from India, right? So, like, the idea of like calling them Indians is bad is like, even if you do make the argument that like it isn't actually a slur, it still is just like highly impractical. So
maybe,
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean,
I would argue they were called Indians before Indians because because that country was not really called India all that much.
Yeah, at this point though, it's a bit too late.
It's weird, right? So like these things established themselves, and I wouldn't be surprised if 50 years from now people still were taught this exact thing.
This sort of thing happens sometimes, right? Where like if you say like, oh, they might have been called Indians first, but like there are some species of animals that their like Latin name is actually that of another species in common verbiage for reasons. I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but that definitely happens. And also people groups, right? Like Aryans are obviously from Iran, right? So like, but like the Nazis were like, oh yeah, we're descended from Aryans, which they're not. And then Aryan became seen as more like of like a European thing. It's like that's just not where the actual Aryans are from. But now that means one thing that's like much more prevalent than the original meaning.
So my proposition would be, if I got to speak in front of the UN Council here, or something, or some human rights organization or something, I would say let's just call them Indios again. Let's give them the Spanish name. It's honorable, has an honorable origin, and it differentiates them from Indians. No complaints, right?
Maybe just let them decide what they want to be called. How about that?
Sure. Then they probably pick Indians for the most part.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, going from, like, oh, white people impose a name on them that actually isn't very sensible to, like, hey, let's us white people impose a different name on them that is maybe more sensible or not. It's like,
I didn't choose to be called Caucasian.
You're not even from the Caucasus!
Exactly. I haven't been to that region. Right? So, hey. If you're Jamaican, you're African American. None of these make sense. But division's important. Important for the people in political power. Keep the people divided. And that's why we have labels.
Yeah, I mean, the whole African American thing is stupid on multiple fronts, as has been pointed out. What is it? Elon Musk is the most successful African American out there.
Yep. That's right.
Because he's literally from Africa and he's now an American.
That's right.
So like,
yep.
He is arguably more African American than Afro-Caribbeans are when they come to America. Yeah. So, yeah.
Of course. That's my fact. Big fact.
Sergej.
Yeah. My fact is about the British Museum and how it hung up a thought to be dead snail on an index card, which turned out to be alive, which they discovered after 4 years of the snail being on there.
How does a snail stay alive for that long? No one's there to feed him or anything, right?
Yeah.
Did he eat the index card?
It goes into torpor. What?
Sorry, what?
No. In torpor, where it just like basically shuts down like bodily functions as much as possible.
And they can survive that long. Wow.
Yeah. After they discovered this, they did an experiment on 40 other snails that they placed in a tin box. And like 8 years later, they opened it up again. And 10 of the snails were still alive.
Jeez. Dude, that's amazing. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's my fact.
Yeah, I feel like hanging up a live snail is like not even one of the worst things that the British Museum has done.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. Let's get back to Indians. Well, maybe it's a bit spicy. So, the USA, right? There were a lot of, in the 20th century, there were a lot of Punjabi immigrants coming to the US. More specifically, young Punjabi men. Now, that creates an interesting situation where there's a lot of Punjabi men, but basically no Punjabi women. And so, a lot of those Punjabi men ended up marrying Mexican women. Because they apparently have similar cultures, and also at the time interracial marriage was forbidden, and so in California specifically, I should say, there were a lot of Punjabi Mexican couples because they were both classified as brown, so they are basically the same race. That's kind of ridiculous when you think about it, but
you can't tell, yeah.
And so they looked similar. They have similar cultures, and so there is like a significant population now of Punjabi Mexican Americans living in the United States that are descended from both Punjabis and from Mexicans, forming sort of their own little culture and ethnic group. And obviously calling them Indian again is a bit spicy because obviously that was before the partition, but some of them would be from what is modern day Pakistan, or what was then at least Pakistan. I think Punjab is in the east. West. If it wasn't east, then it would be Bangladesh. The point is, they were apparently also known as Spanish Pakistani after the partition. So yeah, but that is my interesting fact of the week about Indians in America.
Okay, interesting.
Different kind of American Indian.
Next time I have a super simple fact that will take less than 5 seconds and it's done.
Oh god, is it going to be about the aesthetic superiority of green over yellow?
No. It's even truer than that. It's truer in like a purer sense of the word truth.
Okay, is this just going to be something is...
Yeah. It's Kogito.
There is...
I jest. As the halftime show, once again, playing Connections. No one asked questions about why Alex is in the wrong corner. There's reasons that will come up later.
In the right corner.
Actually, you're in the left corner.
No, you're in the left corner.
Top left corner.
So we're gonna play Connections, and so for 16 words in 4 categories of 4. The words are kick, thunder, brush,
heat, Clippers,
heat.
and Magic.
Shell, set, magic,
teams,
fire,
NBA
Clippers,
teams.
roar, cape, tarot, boom, spice, baseball, and crash. So what do you say? Heat, magic,
Thunder, Heat, Magic, and Clippers. NBA teams.
Clippers. No.
What? Oh, that's a bait. Okay.
Not even off by 1.
Wow, that's a big bait. Okay. That was on purpose.
I mean, yes, it's a good thing to point out, especially because it's, some might argue, less obvious, right? Because it's not like the words themselves in the category, but rather, like, it's not sort of the intuitive, like, group or linguistic connections you might normally draw.
Yeah. Oh. Still.
Okay. fire and heat intuitively go together, but it's the problem where like fire produces heat, therefore it's probably not the same category.
Mm-hmm.
Roar, boom, crash,
And thunder.
and thunder.
Loud noises.
Yeah, basically. Or let's see really quickly. Fire. 2 fire would be a thing, but I think that it wouldn't be like a fiery noise. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, looks okay.
Okay.
Fire could go with heat.
Explosive sound.
Explosive sound.
Okay. I mean, it is, once again, the thing that I said last time, where we have some things that could both be verbs and nouns, right? I don't know if that in and of itself is going to be a category, but you think of like fire, set, kick, spice, I guess, gel. There's actually a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
Like, does spice go with heat and fire?
Things that are hot?
Yeah.
I don't know. Clippers is like, if it's not the teams, right? Then where do the Clippers fit into this?
Could it be like products to groom your hair? Brush, clippers, gel, and something else.
I mean, clippers would be more for nails, I would say. I think it's probably more like scissors if you're going to the hair.
If you have you have the clippers for your hair as well. But heat doesn't fit that too well, does it?
Magic. No, I mean, fire, technically, like, in some places, they do actually, probably just for show for the most part, but they do, like, singe of the end sometimes, but that seems like a stretch. There's some really odd ones in here. Tarot, baseball, and clippers, in particular, stand out to me as being like... I mean, you had a somewhat good suggestion for clippers, although we can't find a fourth for it. Magic as well, I guess, is a bit weird, right? Magic and tarot feel like they should go together.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, like... two things...
with what
like,
else?
Any two things can very easily go together, right? It's like...
Yeah. The 2 other things that involve playing cards.
Wait, baseball cards, tarot cards, magic cards?
Oh yeah, onto something.
Set cards?
That card.
I mean, we're on the same problem as with the hair stuff, right? Where it's like, I have 3.
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Baseball, tarot.
Okay, how about this, right? I'm going full circle. So, like, we go set here, and then we have brush, clippers, gel, and cape as a barber's tools. And then we have fire, kick, spice, and heat as, like, yo, like, damn.
Okay, so wait. So these ones, you said, are the barber's tools?
Yeah, barber's tools. And what you said plus set as the cards, and then fire, kick, spice, and heat. The feeling you get when you eat a jalapeno.
Classic barbershop supplies, okay, yeah. Fire, kick, spice, and heat. Chili pepper qualities, set, magic,
and
baseball,
this
tarot.
is just like cards.
This is cards, yeah.
Yeah.
Kinds of cards, yeah. We did... Okay. Oh, God. We once again did the thing where we had one wrong guess and then all right guesses thereafter. Yeah. But this time it's just like one from each category for the first guess.
One of each, man. The NBA teams were massive bait. I appreciate that. That was cool.
I mean, yeah, that's like part of how these work, right? Like, you need to have some, like, some red herrings in there. Otherwise, it's going to be too easy.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we got it. We're getting good at this. One day we're gonna do it. One day we're gonna do it immediately.
Okay, we are doing would you rather questions for our second topic. Would you rather ability to pause time only once per day, or ability to become invisible last an entire day only once a week?
Does pausing time mean anything except me is paused?
I assume so. Pausing time is one of those abilities
that's
that
a
is
question.
weird. I think the show Heroes had tried to have a particularly realistic portrayal of that, where the character couldn't open doors or anything like that because those were stuck in time. But I guess they forgot to think about the fact that then also they wouldn't be able to move the air molecules around them by that same logic. And so they would just be stuck and also couldn't breathe.
So then that would be useful.
They also wouldn't be able to see.
Yeah, because light doesn't
moving around.
So, you have to, come up with some rules that make at least sense for this to not be stupid. I mean, actually, ability to pause time is kind of funny because, in theory, if you take it very literally, you just pause time. And, I mean, first of all, it says nothing about unpausing, so that's that. And second of all, as soon as it gets paused, you theoretically, unless otherwise specified, get paused too, and so it's pointless. I mean, I guess that's the thing, right? But, if you are pausing time...
You just end it to time.
For the entire universe, and then it unpauses, then, nothing happened. It's just the same as if nothing happened, because there is no universe in, a linear sense, unless there's time. Okay, sorry. I'm thinking...
So what definition of pausing time do we go with? Because that's what's going to matter.
Yeah, I think we're just going to go with, the regular sort of superhero logic where, nothing else moves, but you can still interact with things. You can still, interact with the world, but nothing interacts back, basically.
And how long can I pause time for at a time?
That is the good question that I was thinking about as well, right? That matters a lot.
Yeah.
If it's a few seconds, it's nearly useless. But if it's several minutes, it might already be sufficient to make me pick it.
I mean, if it's a few seconds and you still get better reaction time for certain things, maybe. If you know you have to react to something, you could...
Yeah.
Someone's throwing something at you and you want to catch it, then you have some seconds to position yourself just
but
right.
Then I don't see enough use on a daily basis for it that I would not pick invisibility.
Yeah,
if we're saying, okay,
I'm not saying it's better than invisibility, I'm just saying...
minutes?
It's weird because it specifies how long the invisibility lasts.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, it doesn't specify if you can preemptively end invisibility.
I mean, I would assume not. If it lasts an entire day, that seems very intentionally written.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then I'm also going to just interpret the first one as meaning you pause time for however long you want, and then you unpause it.
Fair enough.
In which case, I will take that one easily.
Yeah, I mean, the one problem I always have with those powers is, do you age while paused? Because that could, over time, become a problem.
Yeah. But, I don't know.
But, I mean, it's just the thing where it's I'll just...
regardless, I pick it.
Take an extra 8 hours every day for reading and whatnot, right? It's just
Or just walk into a bank, pause time, walk out with the money, unpause time.
I mean, yes.
Maybe don't even walk into the bank.
Yeah, you don't even walk into the bank to begin with.
Right, yeah, you pause the time first, then you walk into the bank. Because otherwise you're going to be on tape walking in and out of the bank.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
sure.
And
That's what we'll do.
I mean, yeah, obviously, the money-making aspect as well. But, I mean, I just like the idea of just having some extra time in the day. Time where you're guaranteed not to be bothered as well. That seems nice.
Honestly, I could just say, okay, eat healthy and work out. You'll have, more days in your life. Goddamn, what's the difference?
This one doesn't take effort.
I guess so. I guess not. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm taking
pause time, and that was 73%, and you can infer that the other number is 27, even if you can't fully see it. Would you rather only celebrate your birthday or only celebrate the birthdays of others?
Others.
Huh.
More birthdays per year.
Here's the thing. 10 times per year you go somewhere and get free food, or 1 times per year 10 people come to your house and expect free food?
I don't know what the last birthday parties I went to. I celebrate my birthday most years. And
yeah,
no one ever invites me to their birthdays,
You had the opportunity to show up to Sergej's birthday party if I was informed correctly, and you chose not to.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't remember if I invited you
I thought we did. We at least
explicitly.
talked about it.
I did invite you to Alex's wedding.
Because Martin
Right, yeah,
rolled up
that I
here
remember.
in his old car. Martin rolled up here
Yeah.
at the same time. You gotta just tag along.
I mean, yeah, I'm not particularly attached to celebrating my own birthday. Also, like, what if I don't celebrate my birthday? Can I just randomly invite friends over around the time of my birthday anyways? Like,
Yeah, sure.
I just don't get any presents, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, like, doesn't matter
No
because...
gifts, no birthday cake.
I can't have regular cake.
Yeah.
It's just basically the same thing anyways.
Yeah, has to be regular.
Just fewer candles.
Yeah, exactly. And
no,
no mention of the word birthday.
I mean, I guess birthdays of others, but I don't really strongly care
Definitely.
one way or the other, honestly. So yeah, again, I'm not going to read out the numbers. You can infer those from the one that you do see on screen. Would you rather stand all day or sit all day?
Neither. This is bad.
Yeah.
But sit because I have to sleep, and if it's truly all the time, and I assume that's what all day means, I can sleep while sitting, but not while standing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
I think
Do they
I would
mean-
prefer sitting as well.
I mean, do they think day as in 24 hours or day as in not night? Or I think that's sort of the question that you're asking here.
That's the
Yeah.
question. Like, are we asking, okay, do it on the job, 9 to 5? Are you want to do a sitting down job or a standing up job? Then maybe we can talk. But if we're saying all the time, 24/7, like if you sit, you can never stand, and if you pick stand, you can never sit, I pick sit. Because there's plenty of people who live decades in a wheelchair, but not a lot of people who never sit down.
I mean, yes, counterpoint would be, like, can you then not walk at all anywhere, right? Like, that seems impractical. Oh, wait, if you can't sit, can you use a car? Fuck, like, none of this is good.
Sure, you can use a... Oh, if you can't sit, you can't use a car. No, that's right. That's right. You can't use a car if you can't sit.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Gotta use one of those electric scooters.
God, yeah.
I guess, yeah, I mean, wheelchair obviously would be like a valid option for sitting all day. But obviously that does come with its own set of issues, right? Like, not everything is wheelchair accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you stand all day, the downsides are bigger, so I'm picking sit.
I mean, if we take it to that extreme, I think sit is probably the correct choice.
Even if it is only during the day, like the light hours outside, I would still pick sit.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's almost tougher. I don't know. I wouldn't. Maybe then I would reconsider, but probably still, yeah.
I mean, again, right? Like the problem with like no cars is still very pronounced either way.
Yeah,
right? But it's like
that's true.
No cars. Buses would be really weird if they're like empty. Like you're just sending an empty bus.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say you have a
scooter
condition,
counts.
but
Scooter counts
I've
as
done
standing.
that a couple times. If it's like a short ride.
Going on a scooter counts as standing. How about going on a motorcycle?
That's sitting.
Well, if you sit down.
Going on a motorcycle just with my butt above the seat, standing on the pegs.
I mean, I guess maybe.
Just ever so
I don't know if that's
slightly.
a traffic
That's
violation.
standing, I guess.
Germany being Germany, I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make standing work.
I mean-
Yeah, what about a bicycle without a seat?
Yeah, of course. That's fine.
Yeah, BMX. Yeah, I don't know, man. The transportation becomes weird that way. But anyways, we do have another question if you want. Would you rather have fingers
first
or
one
toes or
easier.
toes or fingers?
Like fingers,
Yeah, obviously.
Fingers
Right.
for toes, yeah.
clearly.
Like, toes or fingers is
Totally
very
useless.
practical.
What they do, yeah.
Fingers or toes
Sure.
seems actually very practical.
Mhm.
You know,
Most
beast
animals
from
that
the
walk
less
like
good X-Men movies.
exactly.
Like, I already grab things with my feet sometimes, but like, surely it's more practical if you can articulate your toes.
Yeah.
Like, or more,
Exactly.
have more articulation in your toes. Fingers or toes. Thumbs would be weird, but I'll take it. Yeah,
you just gotta get your
80%.
shoes. You gotta get a custom pair of shoes made, but other than that, it's all good.
Or just not wear shoes, you know. That is an option.
Ah.
Would you rather have to sing everything or always have to rhyme when you speak? I mean, sing seems like less of an impediment.
I'm rhyming.
Yeah, rhyming seems cooler.
Yeah, right. It's that thing where, like, you're less of a weirdo if you rhyme than when you sing. But also, if you sing, you don't have to think about the contents of what you say any more than you would normally do. Whereas if you rhyme, you have to basically like have a think before
How
every thing you
loose
say.
can the rhymes be?
That's also something I was going to ask, right? Because depending on what kind of requirements you have on rhyming, certain words just cannot appear at the end of sentences. Right? Like, I mean,
Well, yeah.
you know, like a whole, like,
how-
orange
how
does
the-
rhyme with door hinge, yes. Or doesn't,
Door hinge,
right?
four hinge. Yeah, exactly.
Like, yes, we've all seen the clip. The point is, right, like, does it count, right? Do those kinds of rhymes.
It's a clip of Eminem rhyming like 6 different words with orange in the same line. You gotta go look at it.
In response to the whole idea of
Yes,
nothing rhymes with orange.
Yeah, I'm rhyming.
Again, just as a stylistic choice, I would agree, but the problem is if you don't have any additional capacity upon beyond the one you currently have, then I'm thinking
then have sing, yeah.
Like I would really struggle to express myself if I constantly have to think of rhymes first. I mean, you probably get used to it to some degree, but it really sounds like singing you don't really have to think about, right? You just sing your words, right?
I think the strat would be you come up with a couple of words that rhyme with a lot of things, and you just like shrink your syntax down a little bit, so you always end like, for example, anytime I make a statement, I can just add I think or says I or something like that, and then the next thing it says on the rhymes with it.
That is definitely there are exploits there. Yeah, you know, I think that's fair actually. You get used to doing that. Some people might be like, hey, why do you always keep ending your sentences in certain ways? And you're like, ah, fuck you. And you just have to have something that runs with you, which is not that hard.
I'm picking rhyme.
Yeah, I think you convinced me.
It's doable and less annoying over time. You can get a system for it.
64%.
So far, we've been on the majority every time, right?
I think so. Mm-hmm. Well, this is an impractical question to everyone but Sergej. Would you rather have to kill your best friend or have to kill your sibling?
Yeah. Man, this is
all you, Sergej.
Yeah. Probably best friend.
I'll tell Martin you said it.
Yeah.
Good thing Martin is you can't say best friend in this case. Hell yeah.
61. I'm pretty sure that's what Sergej would say. Sergej, who's your best friend?
Yeah. Martin.
Yeah, Martin for sure. Easy.
Yeah, no, that's like I knew that.
Definitely. That's
okay. I think this is going to be the last one because we still have songs coming after this as well. Would you rather have the ability to fix any broken object by touching it, or have the ability to refill anything, like a gas tank, a coffee cup, etc., instantly? Those are both incredibly useful.
Those are both good.
Yeah.
I mean, how much does this break the laws of physics? Like, do we...
All of it.
Yes.
I think for most people's lives, this probably doesn't matter whether your coffee comes out of random coffee molecules of different people's cups just teleported to you, or if you're creating them out of thin air. Probably doesn't make a difference for like everyday situations.
Or convert them from all the gluons and leptons that are in the glass already.
Yeah. Also, what counts as an object is the other question, right?
Yes.
I feel like with a refill, you could make a lot of money, right? You just have to find something that's like very rare.
Yeah.
And, you know, like empty it out and refill it basically, right? So
molten gold, like you know, these huge burners that have molten gold in it, or just oil, I guess. Oil drums works.
Yeah.
Oil tanker, yeah.
But also, you can do the same thing with objects. Come on, like phone repair, car repair. Like you buy like a total like new as Porsche or something off of eBay for like $5,000. You touch it and you resell it. You flip it for 50.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah. I think that's small potatoes compared to, again, right, like gas tanks and whatnot. Like I think there's probably more in that, and you know, fuel rods for like nuclear power plants and whatnot. Like that does get spent. They don't really get used up. They don't get empty, do they? Wait, is a spent fuel rod an object I can repair? And also, can I repair the cancer I get from constantly touching them? Dude, are people objects?
Oh, no.
Can you refill stem cells?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, can you repair humans, right? Like, is this also
I don't think people are objects, I would say, no. That's for sure.
Yeah, dude. Every time you're hungry, you just refill your stomach.
Yeah, I don't know. Both are really good. Honestly, I wouldn't complain about either. And we could print insane money with either one.
I think the fact that you...
I think I'm leaning towards a broken object. Like
me too, because I feel like eventually, like with either power, few months down the line, you have more money than you could ever want.
Yeah.
So at that point, like you just
Which
try to think,
practical.
okay, I just want to live my life good now, and like how do I do that the best way? And
I do like the idea of not having to get up to refill my cup of coffee, but it does seem like the fixing things would be more practical.
Though.
That seems like
a good
very minor thing. I'd rather be walking around being able to repair stuff.
I mean, instant coffee, and I don't mean the bad tasting stuff. I mean just your coffee happens to be instant. Like, seriously, instant coffee.
Or any drink you prefer. Like you have infinite supply.
Yeah,
it's a couple of minutes sacrifice.
Water is like
water.
I mean, okay, the water I just have to go to the tap and refill it though. Like the coffee, I have to like turn on the coffee machine, wait for it to run its cleaning thing. Like it runs water through once and then turn it on.
Yeah.
It takes a while. It has to grind the beans and like it's a whole process. It's not like it takes really long, but it probably takes like a minute. Like unironically a minute to like make a cup of coffee. I mean, usually I just take a piss while the coffee machine is running, so it's not like that terrible. I mean, gas tank.
I don't know,
right?
man.
Like,
I don't know what I think.
Like just
honestly, I'd like Genie. Give me whichever one you got. I'll take them both.
Yeah, right. It's like
make them work.
Yeah.
If your car runs out of gas, you can just refill it. At the same time, if your car were to break down, I think broken objects is better. I mean, just the car example alone. I mean, my thoughts are very car-centric for some reason today, but right, like being able to repair your car instantly is more practical than being able to refill the gas tank, because you know when the gas tank is about to be empty. You can just drive by a gas station and fill up, right? That's like, unless you're having some very poor planning, you probably aren't going to run out of gas like randomly in the middle of the road. I had my battery die once in the middle of the road. Well, I mean, it was... Actually, no, that's not... Well, it's sort of true. Oh, wait.
But you were driving, right?
Yeah, so actually the recharging thing for the battery, I don't know what the technical term is in English, but...
Alternator?
Possibly. Yeah, I think that is. Like, that one broke, and so at some point the battery just was empty. And there was, like, no real indication beforehand. Like, all the lights are flashing, and then, like, within a minute or less, your car just didn't go anymore, right? So, it turned off.
Oh, that's not good. That is bad.
So, it's not like I had forewarning and I could have fixed it beforehand. So, so that moment, you're just like, oh yeah, fix the car, and you're good to go. Although, since it was the alternator that was dead, the battery would still be empty, right? And also, does filling a battery count as filling? I mean, it's not that it's running out of battery acid, it's running out of electricity, right?
Exactly. It seems like filling is about filling stuff with a liquid.
It's certainly implied by the examples, it's not saying
it's not even a lack of electricity, it's just the electricity distribution.
I mean, yes.
That the electrons are even on both sides.
A battery doesn't store electricity in as much as it just, like, yes, does reactions that generate energy, and then it also can do reactions with energy too. Yeah, I know how a battery works.
Yeah.
The point being...
I'll take the object. I'll fix objects.
I think fixing objects is probably more practical, because, again, right, like, whenever something happens with your car, you can just fix it. Which seems more practical than being able to fill up the tank. And the gas tank, filling up the gas tank is probably the most useful in like a day-to-day sense that I can think of out of those. That like actually...
But you make infinite money with either power, so you don't have to worry about paying for gas.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, right? It's still mostly just inconvenience.
But what if gas runs out in like 70 years?
Doesn't matter, right? You don't...
Just globally.
There doesn't... Oh, then you want the refill power, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at that point, EVs are probably prevalent enough. And they're probably going to break down more. You know? If Tesla's anything to go
burn longer.
Yeah, so, you know.
Yeah, the more we go to electric cars, the more we need, like, fixing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I mean, obviously, again, cars is not the only thing in your life. And for the most part, it is about convenience. Whether it's refill or fixing, because you could buy a replacement or buy a refill once you have infinite money. Oh, you don't even need... if refill is not just liquids, you don't even need to be fancy about it, though. You could just refill your wallet.
Yeah. I don't think that's how it works.
You touch the ATM and you refill your bank account.
Yes.
And it's full by the end, whatever that means.
Yeah, dude.
It's totaled out. It tops out.
Wait. I mean, I think either one of those...
Max integer.
I think either one of those is a possibility, though, to completely devalue your currency if you feel like it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But you don't use it all.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I'm taking broken objects.
I think broken objects fixing is slightly better, but they're both more or less equally insane. And since this was a good discussion, I think we're gonna move on right away to the songs of the week once I click this. So it is 49%, and that is the song of the week team.
Figured.
And Alex is once again in his proper spot. I put you back into your place, man.
Nice. Still on the left side.
Speaking of Alex, what is your song of the week?
My song of the week is Hysteria by Def Leppard.
I'm not sure that I'm not definitively certain that I've ever listened to this in full, so I can just go for this clip. It seems fine. I'm not immediately falling in love with it, but I also don't hate it, so, to be determined.
Yeah, exactly. Might be in the music show. I hope I put it in. I haven't had this.
There's 166 songs in there at the moment. I'm still, working through that. But it's also hard, right? Because most of the time when I listen to music, it's more of a background thing. But if I'm listening to songs for myself to make up my mind about them, I can't just listen to them on the background, right? I have to listen to them to know if I actually will like it or not. And so it's, I mean, it's not hard, but it's just the parts where the times the times that I would normally listen to music are inherently not compatible with the idea of evaluating music. And so it's just that there's never a natural time to do it. So I just have to go on my way to do it.
I wish we could automate the task. Just write a program that understands all of the underlying features that make art objectively good and just filter the music and then send it to me.
It doesn't just have to be objectively good, it just has to align with your taste, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which might be partially possible if we have a classifying algorithm where you have a long list of songs and you classify them as good or bad, or maybe even more like a linear thing where you give them a score. And then you ask it to assign scores to new songs, or probability.
You might need a very big sample size to get something reliable.
I mean, yes, obviously, the larger the sample, the better. That's generally true. And then it can probably figure it out from there. That sounds plausible. I mean, again, if all of the songs you like, and certainly at least some kind of list of songs you don't like, whether there's enough of sample size is to be determined, but you would probably need at least as many songs you don't like as you like, though. I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly 50-50, but it probably helps, because otherwise it's just going to be if it's 90% songs you like, it's just going to always guess you're going to like it, because it's going to have a really good hit rate on its test data, and then it's not going to translate to real-world use.
If you extend that as a service, if you have a lot of people using it, you can find correlations between different people that like extremely similar stuff.
I believe that's
and
literally
see
how...
if person A likes the song. Yeah,
I think that's literally how recommendation algorithms work, though. Oh, right. Probably. Yeah. Services like Spotify have existing recommendations already. So, yeah. It's actually kind of already a thing. You just have to use the platform for a while and tell it which songs you like and don't like, and then eventually it'll figure it out. So I guess the next question is, Sergej, what is the song of the week?
My song of the week is BayArea.bmp by Master Boot Record.
You pick a lot of pseudo instrumental music, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if this had lyrics, if this had, like, singing, I might not even dislike it, but, like, just this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even saying it's necessarily bad, it's just someone would listen to, you know? Like,
Yeah, fair enough.
If it had lyrics,
for everyone.
you might be able to turn into something. Yeah.
yeah, because it sounded, I mean, I don't know about the beginning as such, but, like, later on it sounded very much like metal music to a degree, so I could definitely see this being the basis of a good song. It's very hard to convince me on a purely instrumental song.
Yeah, fair enough.
Which I guess brings us to my song of the week, which is If I Could Turn Back Time by Cher.
You put that in my music share, I think, right?
Possible. It's not. I don't think it's currently in there, but I think I might have put it in there.
No, I already went through it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is old school. I like it. There's not really that much to say about it. But yeah, no,
it's one of many like classics that I somehow just can't really fully get behind. I don't know why. Something about a lot of Cher songs that like see. This is what makes me think that artistic realism is true, because like I know these are true, but I like why can't these are good, but like why can't I appreciate them for what it is?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you thought it's true because these songs are clearly bad because you don't like them.
No. these are clearly like they're better than what I personally evaluate them to be, I think.
Okay. I mean, I don't think we have to have a discussion right now about like whether or not that is like how that works, because we just did basically, and we didn't really come to much of a result. But yeah, no, that's the thing, right? Where you have, let me go back. You have some sense of, like, you can ascertain some degree of quality that is not directly related to your personal enjoyment. And whether that quality is objective or not is hard to say. But there clearly is something beyond just your enjoyment that we could qualify in art. I guess that is the final conclusion on the first topic from my part.
Yeah. And then the final step is there like an objective principle that underlies it? So maybe the quality itself not, but maybe some part of it, maybe something like the golden ratio that leads to it being good more often than not.
Yeah, remains to be seen if that exists, I suppose. If someone can... that's also an interesting question. I mean, we probably should end this soon, but if there are objective criteria, right? I said it earlier, you could then make art that intentionally fulfills those objective criteria, right? So then the question is, would understanding what makes art qualitatively good lead to better art being created?
I think so.
Some people will say it will lead to worse art created because it takes creativity out of the building.
Right, that's what I was saying earlier, right? Where it's like, if you like just followed all of the criteria, but then not much else, then would it still be as good, right? Would we still like it as much? That's the whole thing about when an evaluation criteria becomes a target instead, right? Then it becomes useless because people will then optimize just for the target and nothing else, whereas some of the criteria are not necessarily just for the literal thing that they identify, but also as the implication of a wider thing. And if you just optimize for it, then you kind of lose the stuff that comes with it.
Yeah, maybe counterintuitive. It would lead to people like it would lead to there being better art, but art that people like less.
Yeah, that is very possible.
That could be, yeah.
I mean, I guess that goes back to the lowest common denominator stuff, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, like this is made to be enjoyed by everyone, so no one really loves it, right? Like it's like fine, but like no one really loves it because it's not made for anyone.
Yeah.
Which brings this episode of the Trash Talk
Could be.
Podcast. Oh, sorry, Sergej, did you have something?
No, no.
I wasn't trying to interrupt you, I just figured we weren't going to have much more on this. Brings this episode of the Trash Talk Podcast to a close. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this, and you haven't already subscribed to the channel. If you want to see more of Alex and Sergej, links to their channels are also in the description. And if you have something to say, leave a comment or join Discord, so links also in the description below. Alex?
Is that it?
Sergej?
That's it.
That's it.